The age-old argument which never seems to end. Is it better to rent or is it better to buy? Well, in today's video, I'm going to show you why it's better to rent, but it's not your traditional form of renting that you may be thinking. What I'm proposing puts a spin on the entire rent versus buy dilemma. One which is far superior than either of them and puts this controversy to bed once and for all. If you're passionate about this topic and other issues like this, then make sure you click that subscribe button and like this video if you find value from it. So what exactly am I talking about? Well, when scrolling through social media, I'm sure many of you have come across content such as this one, giving their opinion on the matter. Now, on one hand, some will say that you should buy because renting is just throwing your money away. They defend this position by saying things that renting is just paying off your landlord's mortgage and that you're not building equity and thereby increasing your net worth. Or how about the fact that if you put off buying, that will just lead to disastrous consequences in the future, putting you behind the 8 ball and essentially digging yourself into a financial hole that is going to be near impossible to get yourself out of. Are you scared yet? The entire concept of why buying is better than renting basically comes down to FOMO. Or for my non-millennials and Gen Z viewers out there, that simply just means the fear of missing out. You're missing out on generational wealth. You're missing out on equity building. And most importantly, you're missing out on the American dream. But on the flip side, detractors would argue that renting right now is the way to go. After all, interest rates are through the roof. Why would you want to be buying real estate at this very exact moment? And when you compare it to what interest rates were just a few years ago, it's almost unimaginable that you would be locking in today's interest rates. Not to mention that properties are severely overpriced and phantom costs are going to eat you alive. What are phantom costs? Some of you may be asking. Well, those are costs that buyers don't usually factor in when purchasing real estate. Everyone looks at their mortgage payment and just assumes that what that mortgage payment says is what they're going to pay every month. But the reality is that there are other costs that you have to factor in. Like when your AC goes out and you have to replace it, there's $4,000 to $5,000. Or God forbid that your roof needs to be repaired or needs to be replaced. That's easily over $10,000. Or when your taxes and insurance go up due to the increased home value and inflation that we're seeing today, that will undoubtedly increase your mortgage payment. And let's not forget the general upkeep cost of maintaining a home that many buyers seem to forget. Phantom cost, again. It will eat you alive. The argument here is that renters need not worry about any of this. They simply just pay the rent and the owner and landlord takes responsibility over the rest of the issues. The key argument here boils down to one very simple concept. A mortgage payment is the minimum you're going to pay and the rent payment is the most you're going to pay. Now, for me, it's easy to poke holes in either of these arguments, but that's not what this video is about. But you know what? Just for fun, here are a few to come to mind. While true that renting is the most you will pay, this is only valid for the term of the lease. If costs go up, property owners will in many cases pass those costs on to you, the renter. Insurance and taxes, for example, go up, expect your renewal rate to be higher. Also, renters have a higher risk of moving in the event property values go up, as owners will be more inclined to list their property on the market. Now, those are some fancy costs that renters don't ever really think about. It's not cheap to move. We all know this. Between hiring movers, application fees for a new apartment or home, and coming up with multiple months worth of rent just to secure a rental, renting is not all it's cracked up to be. But buying a home isn't all rainbows and sunshine either. A home purchase is a big investment that will often lock up a good portion of your capital as real estate is not liquid. So if you're ever in a pinch or have another opportunity you're looking to invest into, your funds are not easily accessible to you. This, of course, is a big drawback as renting keeps you nimble and keeps your capital on your side ready to be put to work. So then, what is your other option? How is renting better than buying? Easy. Renting is only better than buying when you're doing both at the same time. Let me explain. I think it's fair to say that everyone knows how great of an investment vehicle real estate can be. Some articles even point out that over 90% of millionaires attribute their wealth to their real estate holdings. Real estate investing is a tried and true method of building wealth, and this is an undisputable fact. However, the issue is that most people don't know how to invest in real estate properly. Most people just assume that when you have enough money saved and you qualify for a real estate loan, that the next logical thing to do is to buy a property to live in, and that by default, that property is an investment. Ergo, you have officially become a real estate investor, well on your way to a path of generational wealth and long-term cash flow. And this is simply just flat out wrong. And I don't blame people who think this way because I used to think this way. It wasn't until I got into real estate investing and met with successful investors that I learned that buying traditional real estate just to live in it is not the proper way of investing. True real estate investors are methodical and analytical, analyzing returns, vacancy, market conditions, growth, value add opportunities, as well as short versus long-term plays. So because we as investors are more analytical, it just makes more sense to rent a place to live in, allowing you to free up that capital and not have it tied up into one property. But You use that capital to invest in other real estate that you don't live in. In my case, this would be multifamily rental properties, but in your case, that may be Airbnb rentals, fix and flips, commercial buildings, warehouses, land. You get the point. The overarching theme here is to rent where you live and buy what you can rent. For example, I'm a renter and I intentionally rent from another investor whose business model is cash flow rentals to minimize my risk of having to move. I take all of my excess disposable income and use that capital to invest in real estate. By doing this, you get the best of both worlds. I'm not missing out on equity, net worth building, generational wealth, tax savings, monthly cash flow, but I am still staying nimble and not having my money tied up into one property that is not producing me any cash flow. All those phantom cost renters love to talk about are a non-issue because true investors factor those in. I factor in 5% vacancy, and I also set money aside from each one of my properties for repairs and capex. So when that roof does eventually need to be replaced, I just tap into my repair reserves and take care of that without affecting my monthly cash flow. In my case, I also don't want to settle. I don't want to buy a home just because I qualify for a home. I'd rather buy the home that I want because it's the one that I want. And I know that the best way for me to get there is to increase my real estate holdings, which will increase my monthly cash flow I receive from them. And that cash flow can be used to offset or supplement the mortgage payment for the dream home when I do eventually buy it. Now, this of course is very personal to me, but I'm not saying here that you should never buy a home to live in. If you have built a successful business or your investments are to a point to afford you the option to buy a home, then absolutely do it. I'm more concerned about the order in which those events take place than actually buying a home. Invest in real estate long enough to build your passive and active income to a point where you're comfortable enough to ultimately buy the home of your dreams. And if you're not there yet, then keep buying more investment real estate. If you follow the correct method of investing, it's not a matter of if, but a matter of when you will get there. Remember, this process takes time. No real estate investor gets rich overnight, or at least not any that I know of. But this is a process that if you start earlier, the better it will be for you in the long term, obviously. Now, if you don't know where to start, my recommendation and best piece of advice is to find a mentor who works and has success, which is a very key point and factor, in the type of real estate space that you'd want to be in. And if you don't have a mentor, then find a real estate agent who has investments, not just any real estate agent who's trying to sell you a home because they think it's an investment, because not all real estate is an investment. So make sure you understand the difference. If you like today's content, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And let me know in the comment section below if you're currently renting or buying real estate and what your thoughts on this topic are. I know it's pretty contentious and there's plenty of opinions out there. So is it better to rent or is it better to buy? And with that, guys, thank you all for watching and for supporting this channel. I will see you all next week. God bless.